We've got a lot to cover today. We're going to look at Bitcoin fees, the monthly production for Marathon and CIFR, a bit at the Bitcoin chart, as well as some weekly closes on our favorite miners, and finally close off with MicroStrategy and how that's been rebounding since that big drop on May 1st. Before we get going, if you've been with us for a while and haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It does wonders for the channel and I would greatly appreciate it. So let's get right into it. You can see here we are in mempool right now. You can see that the fees here are significantly lower than the last time we looked at them. Last time we looked at them, they were in the 20s. Now we're looking at about $3 or so. So things have leveled out. There was just that crazy rush during leading into the halving and right after the halving where these fees were just astronomical. And the miners will benefit from that greatly for their Q2 numbers when those do come out later on in the year. For now, things have leveled off back to that normal level here around that few dollars for the stats. So let's go into Marathon for their production update for April. So their average operating hash rate was actually up 15% at over 20 now. So it's 21.1 in April was their average operating hash rate. They've finally cracked 20. It's been quite a while. They've had like 27, 28, whatever exahash for a while now available and using significantly less of it. They're finally getting over 20, so that's good to see. I like to see that. They increased their Bitcoin holdings to 17,631. How does that compare to last month? Let's see, 17,381 was their March hodl. What is it now? 17,006. So they only increased it by 300, a little over 300 Bitcoin here for the month of April. That's not amazing, but we'll see here how much. So they clearly sold a significant amount of Bitcoin that they mined this month. They also have increased their guidance for the end of the year to reach 50 exahash. That would make them by far the largest miner, publicly traded miner available. CleanSpark also has some pretty lofty goals. They're planning to get around that 30 exahash range by the end of the year, but this would put Marathon far ahead of them if that were the case. We'll see though if Marathon can execute on these. If it can, I think the share price will reflect that benefit. And if not, we'll see others rise above them. Let's take a look here. How much did they make in April? So they had 850 Bitcoin mined in April. How much did they have in March? In March, they did 894. So not a significant decrease, but they also significantly increased their exahash. The big hit will come this month. We'll see how they handle that going forward. They also clearly sold a significant portion of the Bitcoin that they mined this month. I'm not too upset about that. I mean, they probably sold it at decently high prices throughout the month, and they still have a huge total. So that's not the end of the world here, as far as I can see. Let's see here. What else is going on with Marathon? I really think that's probably about it. You can see their year over year and month over month changes. 894 for March, 850 for April, even though a third of the month was after the halving and had that significantly reduced Bitcoin reward. You can see that year over year, it's significant increase, 21% increase year over year, but we don't really care about that. We're looking for month to month now because now we've gone into the halving, so this is less relevant. At least in my mind, it's less relevant. They had significantly higher energy. Oh, they almost crossed 30 exahash of energized exahash. They're at 29.9, whereas they were at 27.8 on April 30th. March 31st. But the real thing that matters is their operating hash rate. I don't care how much they have energized. I care about how much they're actually hashing with. And that was only 21, but it was a 15% increase from the 18.3 back in March. Now, this is where a year-over-year comparison is interesting. So they nearly doubled their operating hash rate from April 2023 to April 2024. So that's what you want to see. That means that they will be continuing to mine about the same amount of Bitcoin they were mining last year, a year ago, which was 702. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for about 700 Bitcoin mined after the halving here, and then that would mean that Mara is at least holding par with what they were doing prior to the halving. And with their current goals, they should see that actually go higher than that, especially with how much hash rate they have actually energized. We've got the CIFR update here for April 2024. I was hoping to do some others today, but they haven't quite come out yet. Hopefully that will be soon when I can review those. But let's look at CIFR. So CIFR, they mined 296 Bitcoin in April 2024. They didn't sell any. They also have a total of over 2,000 Bitcoin now, which is pretty great. 70,000 deployed rigs, 7.7 exahash. that is all quite excellent there so far, at least in terms of their production. The only other piece of information I'm looking at CIFR right now is that they're looking forward to updating the investors next week in their Q1 2024 earnings call. Hopefully that goes well and my CIFR warrants go up. Been making a killing on those so far. Caught the bottom of that the other day, as you saw in the video if you watched it. Bitcoin, how is Bitcoin doing? So take a look here. This is actually really great. So remember how I said this candle was really good here? Oh wait, maybe I didn't. Maybe I just did that on a short on Instagram. I wanted to bring that to YouTube, but I guess I ran out of time yesterday. So this was a Morningstar pattern down here, and it is paying out right now. We got out of this descending channel here. We are successfully broken from it. As long as we hold where we currently are today and do not come back down to test $60,000 today or tomorrow, we are fully out of this descending channel here, and we are on our way back up to test the top of this channel here, which means that this head and shoulders that I've been talking about is likely not going to occur. So hopefully nobody tried to front run that and short Bitcoin, because this is why you don't front run those things. You wait for them to break. And of course, I'm guilty of that sometimes too. I've definitely front ran things like just the other week. You saw me fail on SoFi. It happens. Hopefully you keep if you did something like that, you kept your position size small and took your losses early if that were the case. And of course, this is never financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. Please do your own research and due diligence and be very careful when investing and don't over leverage yourself. Okay. So we're up over $60,000 again. We're over $63,000 right now. In fact, we peaked up here at about 64.5. We're going to hang out in this area right now. So we are in a area of resistance right here. We are in it. We're in the thick of it right now. This is a very heavy resistance zone right where we currently are. If we might flag here for a little bit, but as soon as we break out above that $64,000 level and hold it, we're coming back up to like $66,000, $67,000. We're probably going to make a run for right about here. We're gonna make a run for around there. Let me make that purplish. So yeah, ish. We're gonna make a run for about this one if we break out and hold above $64,000, and that should come pretty quick, to be honest, if it makes that little breakout. On the breakdown scenario, so we do have support sitting at 63,000. If we go below 63,000, we're coming back down to the bottom of this wick here, which is also the top of the wick here on May 1st. So the May 1st wick, where the May 1st wick and the April 19 wick meet at $60,859. We're coming back down to that support level if we break below $63,000. Let me make that purple. These are going to be my support and resistance. Actually, I don't want that one to be purple. What color do I want this one to be? Let's make this one, I don't know, some kind of magenta. No, that's too close. Let's make this one blue, I guess. So this is going to be like immediate support and resistance, right? If we break above 64,000, we're likely to come up to about 66.8. If we break below 63,000, we're likely to come down to about 60,823, which is where the April 19 and May 1 wicks kind of meet in the middle there. That's where I'm looking at, that spot right there. And it might wick all the way down to like 59,000, but like this will hold, I think. Let's keep an eye on that. But at the moment, we are on the way up. The miners have been benefiting from that. MicroStrategy has been benefiting from that. Let's take a look at the weekly closes for the miners. So first of all, we got Mara here. We've got Mara. Mara is currently battling with the 200-week moving average, which is at $18.46. It needs to get above this thing. When it gets above this thing, it's going to go very quickly to the 20-week, which is at $21.30 right now. It's going to very quickly go up to that. Well, now we might find some resistance up there. Let's get rid of all my drawings. I just want to see the SMAs right now. Notice how we came to the 50. All right, so this is really a learning moment right here. Okay, the 50-week SMA, super strong, super strong. Notice that when we touch it, we tend to respect it. So at least from the top, from the bottom, sometimes not so much. But you can see when we came down to these lows down here, these lows all the way down at $3.10, we kind of made our way all moseying on up to the 50. We got stuck to that 50 for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks before we broke away from it. It just stuck to that thing. The 50 SMA. I guess look what happened when we broke off of that thing though. We went from $9.20 all the way up to $19.79, which is where if we bring up my little drawing here, this line right here, this is the mega line. You know, I'm going to make this line nice and big. 4 points here. This is the mega giga line right there. I came right up to it. Boom. And then we came down again from there. This is one of the reasons I think that this is the most important line on the MAR chart right now. $19.80. That is the line in the sand that we need to get above and hold above. Notice how we have a hard time getting above and holding above it for very long periods of time, even historically. Even historically, like look how all the way back to 2017, it's been an area where it doesn't hold above it for a super, super long time. So when it does get above it, like that's kind of the line in the sand where I'm like, all right, things are heating up. Um, and we're going to see it kind of like take off from that point and go much, much higher. That's what I'm looking for on this. So really right now, what we're doing is we have collided with the 50-week SMA again. If we hold to this for a while without breaking it, that would be great. If we break above the 20-week SMA, we are looking at coming up into the 20s again very, very quickly. Once we get into the 20s again, we really just need to conquer like $23. And from 23 to 27 is kind of where we got our largest area of resistance above 23 to 27. We get above $27, it's really just open air from there where we can easily go back up into the high 30s and 40s very, very quickly on Marathon when that happens. I think when they break 30 exahash and actually start operating at around 30 exahash, if they're able to do that before summer, I think we'd see a pretty insane move. I mean, they have 29.9 energized. There's really no reason they can't have 29.9 hashing. So if they were able to like push that 0.1 exahash and be like, we got 30 exahash and it's hashing, I think we'd see Mara really just like take off on that news. Assuming Bitcoin isn't crashing at the time. If Bitcoin is crashing at the time, no good news matters. So we're looking at this right now. We're just kind of hanging out. We're watching the 50 SMA. That is our line in the sand right now. That is where our greatest level of support is hanging out, is at the 50-week SMA on Marathon. And the 200-week is what's holding us down. It's holding our head underwater right now. It's trying to drown us. And we just need to get above that line. Once we get above that line, we're taking off. We're going to have a very, very good time. It's going to look something like back here, where you can see where we did each time where we got above the candle that opened above the 200-week SMA was wicked, right? 46% in December 2023, February 2024, 31%. When we got above that line, it was pretty sweet. And that's what we're looking for right now on Mar. Take a look at Clean Spark. Let's see how Clean Spark is doing. Let me turn off my drawings. I just want to see the SMAs right now. Clean Spark's got a different SMA that it really likes, that it likes to come back to and bounce off of, and that's the 20-week. You can see here, we like to bounce along the 20 weeks. Ever since we got above it back in January 2023, we like to bounce along it. We bounced along it once, twice. This time we came to the 50, 3 times, 4 times, and we're just kind of like bouncing along it. Do I think we'll come back to the 50 SMA right now? Probably not. Honestly, probably not, unless the Clean Spark team really fumbles. Then we might see it. But of course, we've got beneath it. So the thing that's good about our chart here on Clean Spark is we are currently hanging out around the level it likes to find support, which is at the 20-week SMA. That 20-week SMA is significantly above the 200-week SMA, which is down at $10.53. I think that would be the lowest we could go in like a super intense downturn, would be $10.44. If CleanSpark hits $10.44, I'm going to pick up a big old bag of it. And of course, just like always, this is not financial advice and not a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. When this 50 gets above the 200 SMA, that's when the 50 becomes the largest level of support again. And currently, I like where we are right now because we're a little bit below the 50-week. The 5-week, sorry, the 5-week SMA is at $17, which is nearly $1 above where we currently are. Meaning we could easily move back up to there with, very little resistance back up to that level. And where we're currently going to find support is at $14.63. I think that's like the lowest we're going to come right now, unless something dramatic happens and we go down to the 200. So I personally have a buy order at 1463 and another one at 1040. 1040 is like if like the worst case scenario happens and I've just got like an order for like 100 shares down there just waiting in case it happens. I don't think it'll happen, but if it does, I definitely want to take advantage of it. And then like the 1460 area is about where I expect it to bounce and continue its way up there on CleanSpark. So let's move on to Riot. All right, Riot. So we're down at $10.42. This weekly candle's not amazing, but it's not the worst. I like that it didn't go below the previous week's candle. That is still kind of bullish, especially with this hammer and this gap up. We didn't enter the gap. And I like that. I like that we didn't enter the gap. We're still above the 5-week SMA, but this 50-week SMA is it's just like the other Mara chart, but the opposite. The 50-week is holding us down. Instead of the 200-week holding us down, on RIOT, it is the 50-week holding us down at $12.47. We must conquer $12.47. I think we will see that happen. I think we'll see that happen when RIOT starts to energize and hash with some of their new miners and bring up that hash rate. They do have a great plan, and it is coming along. And when it starts to show that it is actually happening and it is for real, I think we're going to conquer this 50-week SMA that has been holding us down for such a long time. Once we conquer that, we are very, very quickly, just like back here in the past when we got above it, we are very, very quickly going to come up to the 200-week SMA at $16.12. We will likely wick above it and come around close to 18, maybe even 20. We might even tap 20 this time before we come back to test it again. Notice we always test it, right? Back here, we went above it we closed above it and we came immediately back down beneath it. That's how we knew we were coming down. Back here in December, we went above it. We stayed above it, and then we tested it for 1 week, tested it 2 weeks, closed beneath it. And when we closed beneath it, that's when we knew we were coming down. Back here in July 2023, we went up above it. We stayed above it for 1, 2, 3 weeks. It looked like maybe we could keep on rallying, but then we came back and tested it around August. And in September, we made a big drop down below it, closed below it, and that's when we knew we were going to go even lower. So right now, the 50-week SMA, we need to conquer it. It looks like we might have the momentum. All we need is some good news, and we are going to get above this thing, assuming that Bitcoin does not undo all of that progress. That's what's going on with RIOT. BitDigital, I'm not as optimistic about this one as I was on the RIOT chart. You can see this is a hammer candle, but the wick came down below the wick from the previous week. We went all the way down to $1.89, whereas the previous week was $1.91 where we stopped, and we did not ever get above last week's candle. So even though this is a hammer candle, and I've been talking very bullish about hammer candles lately, this one is not bullish to me. I am potentially looking at something like what we saw back here in October, where we had back-to-back hammer candles and then 3 more weeks of flatness before we saw any kind of big moves up. Last summer was a pretty sweet move, right? Like in May, we started at $1.94, and by June, we were trading up at almost $5. So that was pretty cool last May. And we could potentially see a move like that, but there's one big roadblock in our way. Now, last summer, we started the summer above the 50-week SMA, and we just charged on up using the 5-week as support. Going into this summer, we are looking like back here, where the 5 was resistance, and it was resistance for a really long time before we broke above it solidly and then held above it and then carried on. And that was January 2023, where we got above it and stayed above it and held above it. Right now, we're doing that sort of move. We've been using the 5 SMA as a point of resistance, honestly, since January 2024. So basically, this whole year, the 5-week SMA has been resistance for us, and we are currently lying right on it. We need to get above this 5 SMA, so we need to get above $2.24, hold above $2.20, and decisively move up, similar like this candle back here in March, and move up to the 20 and 50-week SMA. We need to get up and above we need to get up and above $2.87 right now. Currently, we're stuck with the 5 as resistance. We got to turn the 5 into support. Once we turn the 5 into support and we turn the 50 into the past, then we can go and look at the 200. That's the game plan. That's what's got to happen in order to see that thing move up. All right, Bitfarms. Bitfarms is currently using the 50 as support. I like that we're laying right on the 50 because the 50 we likely are going to respect. We often do respect it once we get above it. You can see we've been doing that since April 2023. We got stuck to it, broke above it, hit the 200 week, slammed right into that bad boy, came all the way back down, used the 50 as support for a while. Notice how when we hit the 50, we tend to stick to it like glue for a while. So I do expect Bitfarms to stick to this thing like glue on the 50 right now until this thing takes off. See this wicked candle right here? This is what we're looking for. This November 27 candle. We want to see something like that or like the June 2023 candle, something like that, that just gets us off of this 50 decisively and holds us off of that 50. And then from there, just like on Bit Digital, we want to see it start using the 5-week SMA as support. And then once it starts doing that, we are on our way. We're likely to go up to the 200-week SMA, which right now sits at $2.46. If we can rocket through that like we did last December, and then again this spring a little bit, if we can do that, then we'd be looking again at these highs at the 350 area. Let me make sure I'm on the right ones. Yeah, I'm on the right one. In this 350 area, we could be looking at that again if we can get above this 200-week SMA. But I am expecting this 50 because we've seen it a couple of times now. The 50 SMA likes to glue us to it. And we need to see a big, big candle that just unsticks us from the 50 SMA before we can see moving up to the 200. But there's a big gap here, and there's not much in our way between where we currently are at $1.82 and $2.47. There's nothing really in our way of going there on this weekly chart if we can get ourselves decisively off of the 50 SMA. If we break the 50 SMA, which we haven't done yet, but if we do break this thing, we are coming down to support at $1.22. Like that's where support is on the weekly chart here on this bigger time frame. So we're currently in this pocket. We're sticking to this thing. We got to break away from it. Let's take a look at MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy. So if you're here on this day, this is the daily chart again, by the way. If you were here on Tuesday, April 30th, that was horrific. It was down 17% in one day. If you bought that, and I can't remember if I pointed out this hammer candle or not. I know I saw it. I might have pointed out this hammer candle. This hammer candle was the candle. If you pick this thing up down here at $1,000 flat nearly, you are already up $223 in just 2 days. You were up from the bottom of that hammer candle. Look at that beautiful hammer. You're up 20% already on that. I could have done that math. It was 1,000 to 1,200. I should have needed a ruler for that. Okay, anyways. The hammer candle right here, this is like a season of hammers. These hammers are really pointing out a lot of really good buying opportunities on this chart right now. So if you're watching these charts, watch for the hammers. Watch for the hammers at the low, If you get a hammer at the top of a move, like up here, yeah, that's bad. That's not helping. Like, look what happened after that. Like, we moved from 1600 nearly all the way down. It came as low as 1493 and it settled around 1500. So like, or a hammer up here. These hammers near the tops of moves, scary, 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 scary things. Hammer at the bottom of a move, like here in April 18th, moved up. Here on April 25th, moved up. Here on May 1st, moved up. Hammer at the bottom, good. Hammer at the top, scary. That's all we need to remember about those candles right now. So that's all I've got for you today. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a profitable day.